So right now, Nico Hulkenberg is in a bit of an interesting situation. Rumours are still persisting about his current drive with HAAS and also potential moves elsewhere, particularly with Sauber. However, there's lots of competition for seats from existing drivers and also young guys waiting in the wings. So it all depends on if Hulk can deliver and impress everyone with what he can do with his HAAS this year. But the thing is, there lies the problem. Off the back of 2023, nobody's expecting HAAS to come flying out the gates, but from what we've seen the last couple of weeks, the team and its drivers look like they're going to have a hell of a tough year. Now, unfortunately, I think this year will be the end of the road for Magnussen, but whilst Hulkenberg still has some interest, he currently faces a dilemma, because how is he supposed to sell himself properly in what is expected to be the worst car on the grid this season? Let me know in the comments where you think he'll be on the grid in 2025, and also if you're feeling lucky 2026. Now, despite what the stats say about Hulkenberg, about never finishing on the podium and never achieving his full potential, I still think he is a quality driver. Look at it this way, if you're a principal of a team that's a bit rubbish and need an experienced driver who can put the car into positions it has no business being, won't bring drama to the team, won't break the bank, and will bring the car back in one piece, there is still only one name for you to consider, and it is Hulkenberg. It's looking like the 2024 season for HAAS is going to be a very tough one, and given Hulkenberg's attempted return to Sauber, which was blocked by Günther Steiner, I think he already knew that things already weren't looking that good. But just going back a few years, after losing his seat at Renault in 2019, I think Hulkenberg might have seen that as the end of the road for him in F1. But after some really impressive stand-in drives at Racing Point and Aston Martin, it was clear that he was still a valuable asset for any F1 team. And Hulk would also jump at any opportunity to race in F1 again. And that's exactly what happened. HAAS needed a safe pair of hands to replace the struggling Mick Schumacher and kind of just guide HAAS forward a little bit. I can imagine he arrived at HAAS thinking, okay, this will do for now and I can use this as a step ladder to go to a bigger team elsewhere. But with that blocked return to Sauber, I can kind of understand why HAAS did that, because they gave him a lease of life and he was already looking to leave the team within 12 months. So from HAAS's point of view, I kind of understand it a little bit. But then I understand Hulkenberg's side as well, because if you're not looking out for number one in the sports, no one else is going to do it for you. But then a few weeks ago, we had this bombshell of Günther Steiner being sacked by HAAS. Bit shocking that it happened at this point of the year, but overall not really that surprising. And with Steiner being sacked and all the statements from the team, and also including Hulkenberg and Magnussen, I don't quite get the impression that people are heartbroken by this. Hulk issued a farewell statement to Steiner saying thanks for giving him a drive in F1 again, and that, he acknowledged that Steiner was a bit of a character. But otherwise, he's kept pretty quiet, and that's probably the most sensible thing to do. I mean, Netflix are probably absolutely devastated by this and in panic mode, because for them, not having Steiner in future series is kind of like Marvel losing one of their main characters. In fact, Sky Sports should be doing everything they can to get Steiner into the punditry team. Throw him into their current bland lineup and wait and see what happens. Things appear to be so rough at HAAS right now that I get the impression that Steiner's replacement, Ao Komatsu, doesn't seem too delighted about being promoted to the team principal role either. Having previously been the engineering director, he probably knows how bad things might be on the car side, and is also probably about to learn some home truths from Gene Haas as well. He's even said publicly that he has a huge job ahead of him and that the 2024 car is not where it needs to be right now. But it's this uncertainty that must have alarm bells ringing for Hulkenberg, because his priority now has to be to emerge from HAAS intact and be able to showcase himself to other teams for future drives. But despite everything, a good opportunity may be presented to Hulkenberg to step up and lead HAAS through what could be a seriously tough season. It's really a chance for him to bring everyone together and unite the team and show some direction, as Steiner, the long-time leader, has now gone. I know it's Gene Haas's name on the car and it's overall his money, but really it was Steiner's baby, really, the team itself. But I think if Hulk does this, if he brings everyone together, unites the team, shows some direction, other teams in transition who also might be in a tough spot might say, he's useful, bring him in. After all, Hulk must still have ambitions in F1. I mean, he still needs that elusive podium position that he's been trying to get for all these years. And also, he probably wants to lay the groundwork so that he can get into the Works Audi team when that starts in 2026. But we have to be honest, because Hulkenberg, he was never really going to be that top-tier driver, but what he is, though, is a solid middle-tier driver who, in the right car, can still deliver when it's needed. And given that the driver market for 2025 is going to be absolutely crazy with potentially 15 seats available, there is some room to move around. So what are the options available to him right now? Now, the simplest and most straightforward option is for Hulkenberg to remain at Haas for 2025 and perhaps onwards. See out his career with the team, and I'm sure Haas, given everything that they're going to be going through, are probably going to be very happy to have him as well. But for Hulkenberg to throw his lot in with Haas is a very risky move, and given everything that we're seeing coming out of the team at the moment, it's really not looking good right now. There's talk of if Gene should sell the team, and Komatsu saying that the car isn't right for this year, so yeah, very, very risky for Hulkenberg. But this isn't new stuff. I mean, in recent years, it seemed that Haas has just stumbled from one season to the other without having a real kind of plan in place. Also, 2025 is apparently the final year of MoneyGram's title sponsorship of the Haas F1 team. So if they don't extend the sponsorship and that revenue gap has to be filled, Haas might have to go back to dealing with pay drivers again. But ultimately, Hulk, I don't think, will be very happy to stay at the team post-2024. He probably isn't happy to stay at the team this year, as it offers him the least chance of success. In fact, probably the least chance of success in his whole career so far. Obviously, except not the years where he was racing part-time, but there we go. So an extension at Haas, extremely unlikely, extremely risky, but it's good to know that he's got this potentially in his back pocket if other drives don't work out for him. Definitely a last resort if other drives don't materialise. A return to Sauber is very much on the cards and probably the most likely to happen, given that Hulkenberg has already driven for the team and had that interest from last year as well. And also with that intention to rejoin the team blocked from last year, this is only going to fuel his desire to join the team even more, I think. Now, in all honesty, Sauber wouldn't be an enormous step up from Haas either. Sauber were pretty anonymous in 2023, and their prospects for this year don't look that good either. But it's that drive with Sauber is what's going to give you that foot in the door for when Audi takes over in 2026. And in my opinion, Hulk at Audi just works. Obviously, it's a German team with a German driver, but also there is no guarantees that Audi would be any good straight away. So they'll need a guy like Hulkenberg who can come in and bring some experience, potentially put up with a bad car for a while and maybe some in-team fighting, corporate rubbish going on, and just to lay the groundwork for any kind of future success. Kind of like what David Coulthard did at Red Bull between 05 and 08. But there is a lot of competition for that 2025 Sauber drive right now. You've got that current lineup of Bottas and Guan Yu, other drivers that won that eventual Audi drive, but also up-and-coming drivers like Porsche who just want a chance. But there is an underlying ability and motivation I see in Hulkenberg that just don't get the impression of with Bottas and Guan Yu. Hulk is going to have to absolutely drive the nuts off the car this year just to show that it is actually the car letting him down and not the other way around. And this is one of his strengths because we've seen him put cars into positions that they have no business being, especially with Haas last year when he regularly broke into the top 10. Only to fall back because, unfortunately, his car was only quick over one lap. I think that Sauber recognised this, and given that Bottas has kind of checked out ever since his Mercedes drive and Guan Yu isn't setting the world alight, I think that Hulkenberg and Sauber would be a very good pairing. In fact, I'd be very surprised if he isn't there for 2025. But with those two possibilities out of the way, I don't think his options end there, because there are a couple of teams at his level who could potentially be losing both their drivers in 2025. And once again, who are in a transition period and need someone who can collect points and deliver the car back to the garage in one piece. Now, Williams could find themselves in a very tricky spot at the end of this season, where perhaps Albon has been signed by a bigger team, like Ferrari, for example, and Sargent just hasn't cut the mustard, leaving them with 2 vacant seats. It would be quite poetic, actually, for Hulk to rejoin Williams and end his career where it started, especially as the signs show that Williams are starting to come out of a slump. And Hulkenberg, at this stage of his career and where Williams are at, I think they would work really well together. Both parties want no drama, no egos, and they would probably understand each other quite well. So it's an outside chance, and I think perhaps Williams might want to get maybe a young lineup in, but as a fallback, might not be such a bad idea. But then also you have another one of Hulk's old teams, Alpine, or as it was when he drove for them, Renault. Now, Alpine could be in a dreadful situation come the end of the season, with apparently both Ocon and Gasly wanting out of the team. And with the management looking very wobbly and the persistent interference from people above, it looks like Alpine is not the place to be right now. But straight away, this taps right into Hulkenberg's USP. He's been there before, he's a familiar face at Enstone, and he'll do whatever the team tells him, and he'll probably bring the car back with all 4 wheels on it. So for Alpine, Hulkenberg might be just the person he's looking for to partner perhaps a young driver at the same time. And after all the drama and fireworks that comes with that Ocon and Gasly lineup, Alpine might be looking for some peace and quiet on the driver front for once. Then they can get on to sorting out the enormous mess that is the rest of the team, knowing that the driver lineup is pretty much sorted. One less thing to deal with. Now there's the last option, and this is something that Hulkenberg probably won't want to do just yet, and it is to just retire from Formula 1 and perhaps race in another series. If Haas is just too unbearable to deal with, and the Sauber drive doesn't materialise, and Williams and Alpine don't include him in the plans, unfortunately, retiring from F1 and maybe moving to Le Mans or the United States could be the only option for him. And it would be such a shame, because I think whilst he's quite happy with his career, getting that podium place would just be the icing on the cake for him. Kind of like how Alonso wants that 3rd world title, but Hulkenberg's situation is just on a much smaller scale. Hulkenberg's career breaks traditions because he's maintained a 14-year career as a driver in F1, whether that's first, reserve or development, without scoring a podium place. Under normal circumstances, a driver with this kind of record wouldn't have lasted very long at all. But he still offers something which has not just kept him around, but teams have found useful, especially in his later years where he's found teams which are in turmoil and need someone to come in and kind of steady the ship. A fixer, if you like. So yeah, Hulk does have a big job ahead of him in 2024. He knows that he needs to impress in what is likely to be a bad car so that he can showcase himself and get himself that Sauber and eventual Audi drive in 2026. But unfortunately, I think Haas are sending him to a gunfight with a slice of cheese. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe. More content on the way, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. See you later.